The second thing was obviously on the radar. We had radar problems right from the start. Yeah, that was the big problem, and that was
everyone, is it the blue circle everyone says?
Well, the blue circle.
Joke,
let me put that right. That is. It's very unfortunate that the aircraft got the nickname as the Blue Circle aircraft, which really followed it through, because by the time that aircraft went out of service, it was hugely capable, and all the problems had gone. Now, we only ever had 5 aircraft that had, quote, concrete in the nose. And they only had concrete in the nose. We came back from our course at Wharton with radars in the aircraft.
Okay.
So there were radars in the aircraft from the start.
So it's a bit of a myth then?
It's a myth. There were radars in the aircraft. The reason why radars, because we had so many problems with the radar, they had to be taken out of the aircraft and sent back to GEC to be modified. Mm. That's why we had that's why we had holes in the nose, as it were, for a while. Mm. It was because of the radar problems, not because we didn't have it right from the start. We did. It didn't work very well. I mean, the big problem was we as people have probably told you, it was just full of just multi targets everywhere. Trying to identify the actual target was the real problem.
Yeah.
We got there in the end, and if I just talk about the radar, since we're on it, sort of, because so we went through that, we built up, and everybody commented on it. They didn't like it. Nobody liked it, and it was a bit cumbersome to even operate, quite frankly, with the keyboards and what have you. But I remember sort of in 1986 it was, because we weren't going to declare without a radar that could do something. And I took a team from the Operation Conversion Unit down to Strike Command in 1986 to give a presentation to the then Commander-in-Chief of Strike Command, Air Chief Marshal Sir Peter Harding, on the state of the radar. And I didn't mince my words at all. Told him exactly what the problems were, and he listened. Suffice to say that we got a wad of money, and an emergency sort of trial took place called Trial Bunbury, when we went through a whole series of exercises, trials to have a look at the radar and identify sort of in detail the deficiencies, and then fixes were sort of very quickly put in. So that all I'll say at this stage is that by the time we didn't have the final radar in any way, but by the time we got declared, I forget which one it was, stage 1 or stage 2 radars, but we gone through sort of all sorts of lists, W lists, X lists, Y lists, and things like that. So it had continually sort of being upgraded as we went through. It still was pretty punk, quite frankly, when we got declared, but it was just acceptable, and we did get declared. So we made it, and then, but that wasn't the end of the game. By this stage, we'd established the Operational Evaluation Unit, and a lot of their work was spent in detail studying the radar, and what they did led to further development of the radar. And as I say, by the time that aircraft went out of service, the radar, as far as I'm aware, because I wasn't flying it by that stage, was well, you wouldn't recognise it from what the radar that came in the first place. Night and day, yeah. I think in summary you could say that sort of we had major problems with the radar, which we didn't hide from. There are those who said you should never have taken the aircraft into service, but the aircraft was taken. I'm not a proponent of that, in fact, and I did get involved in discussions.
Okay.
And the reason why I think it should have been brought into aircraft, because I knew, you see it with every aircraft that comes into service, that the children are there. You can tell by every aircraft comes into service. When the RAF gets its hands on the kit, then they are the best people to put it right. And that, quite frankly, is exactly what happened.
User,
Yeah,
essentially, yeah.
it's the user. I'd seen it with the aircraft before, particularly the Jaguar. The Jaguar, they had responsibility for developing their own kit. So that's why I think it was the right decision to bring it into service, so we could get our hands on it, because it was going to come. We could get our hands on it, and we could fix it. And that's what happened. Yes, it took time, but that's what the RAF did.